Welcome to Gina's Table. I am so glad that you are here this week with me. I have been thinking about our time together and hoping that you would join me at the table. Today I have hot tea instead of iced tea because last week we had the craziest thing happen, which is the joy of living in the Midwest, where all in one day we experienced every season a 50-degree turn of temperature. It's crazy. I often ask myself, why do I live in the Midwest? And there are lots of good reasons. The weather is not one of them. Mainly, I live in the Midwest because I love fall. I can't see myself living in a space where I would give up that season. I also really enjoy talking about different seasons in our life, which brings me to today's topic. And I hope that as we talk about this, that we can come with open minds and open ears to hear one another's story. And so I get asked a lot why I left pastoring. Why am I no longer working in a church? And that is a really good question. And always the follow-up question to that is, do you ever see yourself going back into pastoring? And while there are times I would like to say no, never, I have learned never to say never. And so at this time, I would just say maybe. But that is not on the horizon. It's not something that I'm looking for or actively seeking out, as I just feel like my path has taken a little bit different journey. And I'm so excited about the different opportunities that I'm getting to do and the opportunities that are coming my way from speaking engagements this fall in different locations and hoping to do more of that kind of thing. But again, that goes back to the question of why did you go? And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that in my context, and maybe it's going to help you in yours. Because no doubt in any different season of your life, you have asked the question, is it time for me to go? Am I in the right spot? Should I be looking for something new? Why do I feel this feeling of angst, or you fill in the blank? And so I'm going to tell you a little bit about my journey and how I got to this place. And then hopefully you're going to find something in that that's going to help you. Back in November of last year, I read a quote on Sarah Bessey's Instagram. If you don't know her, she's an author. She just released a new book, which I am just starting, called Field Notes for the Wilderness. But I want to read you her quote. Again, this is Sarah Bessey. This is found on her Instagram post. And she says, looking back, I can see how often I missed natural endings simply because I refused to let myself know what I knew. I wanted to hang on to what used to work longer, or wanted to hold on to that version of myself to keep the belonging and certainty of staying put. Or I was talked out of trusting myself by hopefully well-meaning people with a best-case scenario version for my life. I still got where I needed to be in the end, but it was more fraught, more painful, more complex than perhaps it needed to be. There is a lovely line in the book of Isaiah where the prophet says, and when you turn to the right or when you turn to the left, your ears shall hear a word behind you saying, this is the way, walk in it. I've often returned to that phrasing in the healing work of knowing God and knowing myself through the lens of love. This is the way, walk in it. We all know there isn't much, I wouldn't over spiritualize, but I do wonder if this is another form of healing. The healing of our intuition, our inner knowing. Perhaps this is the overdue restoration of our ability to hear the Spirit of God breathing in our own knowings. This is the way, walk in it. And I simply wrote that down. Copied it, I wrote it down, I typed it out, I talked to my counselor about it. And I think far too often in our lives, we miss a natural ending because of our fear, of our anxiety, of you fill in the blank, to do something different. Because there is a little bit of comfort in doing what we've always done. And so for me, it was realizing that there is a piece of what I was doing that I can continue to do perhaps forever. But will I really be walking in all that I know I am created to be if I stayed? And I looked back over my life in different areas, but in particularly that in ministry. And I know that there were seasons where I missed a natural ending because either pride, I thought that I could stay and do more and fix and be better or whatever. And there were other times where I know that I missed the natural ending because I simply was scared of what might be. And so as I think about this journey that I've been on over the last few months of leaving pastoral ministry, literally quitting my job with nothing else in place, right? The financial cut to our household income, the reality of me not having anything to do. Now, if you know me, you know there's always something that I'm doing. But resting in this, there's a natural ending, and I'm going to walk in it. And while some, as I talked about in our first podcast, there's always those who want there to be a narrative. They want there to be a story. And while I am not perfect and there are things that I would absolutely have done differently, there wasn't a drama. It was just time. It was just time to do something different without knowing what the different is. If you're familiar at all with the Bible and in the Bible stories, there's a story of Abraham and Sarah, and God is talking to Abraham about leaving everything he knows. He wants him to pack up and go to the place he will show him. In other words, I want you to leave everything you know, Abraham, and go on this journey. You're going to take your family, you're going to take all your belongings to a place. Okay, where is that, Lord? Oh, I'm going to show you. But the first step is you're going to pack it all up and you're going to start the journey without knowing the destination. And starting journeys without knowing the destination is very, very hard. Emily P. Freeman is releasing a new book on March the 12th, and she has written some absolutely amazing books and also has a podcast called The Next Right Thing. And if you have not listened to that or read any of her books, I highly recommend it. But her new one that's coming out on March the 12th is How to Walk into a Room, the art of knowing when to stay and when to walk away. And I think that that really is something that we all need to hear in our life. What is it that we are supposed to do? There is absolutely things that we need to stay in. When I think about all the opportunities that I have to stay or go, right? In our next time together, I'm going to talk about Jason and I because it's going to be our anniversary week. And I want to talk about the art of staying in a marriage when it is hard and when there are things that you drive each other crazy, right? Because anytime that you spend lots of time with one person, you tend to drive each other crazy at times, but also the deep commitment and love and respect that you gain with one another as you stick through those hard times. But we're going to talk about that next time. Today, I really just wanted to talk about the questions that I get of why and how and what's next. And the answer is really, I didn't know what was next. I still don't have all of those pieces figured out as I am a one-man operation here, filming production, getting it all to the places that it needs to go for a podcast to happen, and learning about all sorts of things, setting up a new nonprofit, which is something I had done before, kind of. We have, but Jason really did all the work. And so what is it to know that there's a natural ending and to walk away from it? And so that has been the place that I have been in over the last few months and have sought counsel. I have a great counselor. I am a big proponent that everyone, and I mean everyone, needs a counselor. coaching and mentors that have really spoken life into this season of where I am. I also had someone, and I think they meant it in a good way, that did you leave pastoral ministries because you just couldn't do it? And no, it wasn't that I just couldn't do it. And I think that at times, I think my best ministry is behind me. My best days are behind me. But God just keeps reminding me that there are some really good days still ahead. It's just going to look drastically different than the ones that are behind me. And so those are stories that we will hold close and talk about in the days and weeks ahead. And so today, as you sit at your table, as you think about where you are in your journey, is there a place that you're just feeling like maybe there's a natural ending and you're unsure if you're supposed to go or stay? And what I would just encourage you to do is to seek out those you know will speak truth into you. Listen closely to the prompting of the Holy Spirit, and be willing to take a risk and go in obedience, even if you don't know the best next step. Even if you don't know what the next step is, right? Other than maybe it's go. And that was my story. And I'm thankful for the story. I'm thankful for the opportunities that I have had in the last 25 years. And that has been really important. Some of the other questions that I get around this is how do you know when you and the table you're at, since we're at the table, maybe aren't a fit anymore? And there's a lot of things I could share about that. And one of the things that I think that was really important to me in my leading, in my questioning, is when you are at a table, when you are in a workplace, when you are in a community of people, maybe you're on a board, maybe you're in your friend group, all sorts of things. It doesn't have to just be my context is church, right? When you really begin to see that you're not passionate about the same things, when you are wanting to go someplace, but they can't see it. And as a leader, that's a tricky thing, right? Because you're supposed to cast the vision and get people to rally around that. But sometimes that's easier said than done, because there are people who want to see a new vision and see a new way, and they want to go there with you. And other times they can't see that. And so instead of just everybody pounding their head on walls, be honest about it and say, okay, where is it that I need to use how I'm created and gifted? And so we'll talk more about that, I'm sure. And if you have questions, I would love to hear from you. Next week, when we meet together again, I'm going to share a little bit of Jason and I's story and how to stick together for 30 years. My goodness, I can't believe it's been that long. And also, I am going to release my first table talk conversation starters. And so if you have not yet signed up to be part of the reservation list, you can drop your email in a direct message to me and I will get that added. Also, make sure you follow Gina's Table on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube. YouTube is really going to be the holding place for the podcast, and we are still working out all the kinks to get that updated to Spotify, Apple Music, and all those things. So hopefully even by the time this one is released, it will be working on all of those stations. So make sure that you subscribe and like and share and invite your friends to be part of Gina's Table, but more importantly, that you invite them to be part of your table. Again, thank you for joining today, and I cannot wait to see you next week.